Kingdom Hearts is one of those series that is incredibly daunting to get into, even if every game is actually quite easily accessible now. That said, it relies so heavily on nostalgia, both on our childhood and also the love of older Disney works. It starts drifting from that pretty quickly with the sequel, but Sora always feels at heart like the childhood you remember. The final battle of Kingdom Hearts 2 feels like something almost thought up by a child as some epic final showdown. You jump across skyscrapers, cut them in two, duel against Xemnas with lightsabers, deflect millions of lasers at once, fly all over the place and defeat giant monsters. And in the end, you defeat him with the power of friendship. Everyone has their own memories of Pokémon, whether they began way back with Gen 1 or only started with the latest entries. The one generation that holds a special place in many people's hearts is Gen 4, Platinum in particular. Beautiful music, iconic Pokémon, and gorgeous areas. Perhaps most memorable, though, is Cynthia. In typical Pokémon fashion, you meet her plenty of times before she reveals herself as champion, though it's not much of a surprise. To this day, though, she is remembered as one of the most difficult. Her theme is heart-pumping, her Garchomp the destroyer of many teams. She even appears in other games too, in case you thought you could escape her. God of War has always been a well-known series, the eponymous God of War Kratos being just a pure killing machine. In the latest game, though, he's a softer figure, someone wanting to leave all that bloodshed behind. But he could never just drop something like that so easily. In the land of Norse myth, Kratos encounters the stranger Baldur, who becomes something of an unkillable rival, until the very end when he finally feels pain again, and can actually die. The fight is bombastic, throwing you across the stage all while Baldur and Freya try to lay waste to you. It's almost a reflection of Kratos' own past, and as such gives Baldur a more merciful passing than he would have in the past. Nier Automata is a much-loved game with characters that tell you they are logical beings of perfect precision breaking down into something more human. It's a world so detached from ours, yet with constant parallels. And amidst all that emotional turmoil is a beautiful combat system that makes each battle a joy. It can almost make you guilty to take glee in such a good system against so many enemies that just want to exist, and the ending of Automata has you fighting so many Koshi and Roshi with two characters, the Red Girls, and then the final confrontation where you must pick a side. Even if the combat is great, you won't come out unscathed, at least emotionally. There's nothing that quite matches the impact Undertale had on internet discourse. Though it takes plenty from older games like Earthbound, and plenty of other games have existed with surreal reputations, Undertale almost feels like a game with prophetic knowledge of how it would be played. For example, Flowey. That happy but kind of pushy tutorial guide that seems just a bit demented. They're also likely the first final boss most players will encounter, just as something quite different. Flowey doesn't look like Flowey when you fight them, but instead some ungodly chimera of Photoshop editing. It's quite the twist, and one that isn't easily forgotten. There's a lot that can be said for the direction of Assassin's Creed, but Assassin's Creed 2 is heralded by many fans as the highlight of the series, a massive structure built upon a limited foundation of the original. With a story taking place over almost 40 years, players truly grow to care for Ezio and his quest for revenge. His own motivations twist and turn to be something more altruistic by the end. Because by the end, he doesn't even want to kill this man who ruined him, the literal Pope. Instead, he offers him a simple fistfight, a way of showing him that they are all equal on Earth in raw terms, that the Pope is not some being above others. Metal Gear is a series that has never played strictly by the rules. It's always been an incredibly meta-narrative with a constant awareness of its surroundings, and its bosses are no exception, stretching from more typical bosses with heavy theming to bosses that can be literally aged to death. Metal Gear Rising, though, is a character action game, and despite its stealth roots, feels quintessentially like Metal Gear. And Senator Armstrong is a strong villain, literally and figuratively. That final showdown in Rising where he just kicks you around while ranting maniacally as you shred each other to bits is so damn adrenaline pumping. Dark Souls, and much of From Software's works, have worlds that require a bit of reading. First, they can come off as very typical dark fantasy, then leading to a more depressing world. Dark Souls, however, at its core, is a message of hope, of constant perseverance. That this dismal world can be made a better place. Gwyn is heralded as an almost godlike being, someone who banished darkness from the world and brought about an age of civilization. But that light kept dwindling and the world kept creeping towards an inevitable future with no plans. And when you finally encounter Gwyn, it's sorrowful. Someone so afraid of the dark that they dragged the whole world down with them. People constantly try to put a harder timeline on the Legend of Zelda series than actually exists, but as the lore dictates, there definitely is a cyclical nature to the world. Almost every game ends with a battle against Ganon in some form, be it his Gerudo form of Ganondorf or as some great beast. Majora's Mask breaks this tradition. No Zelda, no Ganondorf, and not even Hyrule. Set in the land of Termina with the impending end of the planet looming high, there's Majora. Skull Kid is just a victim. The actual multi-phase fight against Majora is surreal, creepy, and unlike anything else Zelda has done before and since. Majora's Mask breaks this tradition. No Zelda, no Ganondorf, and not even Hyrule. Set in the land of Termina with the impending end of the planet looming high, there's Majora. Skull Kid is just a victim. The actual multi-phase fight against Majora is surreal, creepy, and unlike anything else Zelda has done before and since. Vergil has existed since the very beginning of DMC, but DMC3 functioned as something of an origin story for them all, and so you fight him various times throughout the game. Yet at the very end, for purely petty reasons, Vergil wants to fight again to prove he's stronger. Having seen you both grow across the game, it's so tantalizing to fight a boss that's just as powerful as you are. That's all. Subscribe next time, it will be more interesting.